The economy is booming. That's what they keep telling you. Record highs, double-digit growth, AI driving stocks into the stratosphere. And soon, they say, robots will do all the work while the rest of us just get paid to exist. Poverty gone. Scarcity gone. A post-work utopia handed to you by the same billionaires who own the machines. Sounds incredible. Except ask anyone outside a boardroom how their life is going, and you'll get a very different answer. Rent keeps climbing. Wages sit still. Groceries cost more every week. Owning a home has become a fantasy for entire generations. So if the numbers are this good, why does everyone feel like they are drowning? Because there are two economies running side by side. One is the version performed for cameras. Executives talking about resilient growth and robust revenue. Politicians promising prosperity is just around the corner. The other economy is the one you actually live in, where your paycheck buys less every year and your future feels smaller every year. An economist named Charles Goodhart figured out why this gap exists back in the 1970s. His law is simple. Once a measurement becomes the target, people optimize for the measurement instead of the thing it was supposed to represent. The Soviets proved this brutally. Factories were judged by the number of nails they produced, so workers churned out millions of tiny useless nails. Switch the target to weight, and suddenly factories were welding together giant, unusable slabs of metal just to hit the number. Meanwhile, Soviet growth statistics were beating America's, and it was the first industrialized nation in history to see life expectancy fall during peacetime. Every target got hit. People just kept dying younger. That's the trick hiding inside modern economic statistics too. Take Mississippi. On paper, its GDP per capita beats most of Europe. It out-earns Spain, Italy, even rivals the UK. Sounds like a success story. Except a baby born there is 4 times more likely to die before its first birthday than a baby born in Italy. Life expectancy in Mississippi is around 72. In Italy it's 84. GDP can't fake that. Now go the other direction. Inland Sardinia is one of the rare places on Earth where people routinely live past 100. Shepherds, farmers, people baking bread and drinking wine with the same neighbors for 60 years. Economically, they're almost invisible. None of it counts as a transaction, so none of it counts as growth. Meanwhile, in the wealthy West, food is manufactured in a lab, community has dissolved, and people have quietly forgotten how to actually live, as if living itself is bad for the economy. Robert Kennedy saw this coming back in 1968. He stood up and said flat out that gross national product measures everything except what actually makes life worth living. It counts napalm and cigarette advertising, but not the health of our children or the strength of our marriages. Nobody listened. GDP won. It's still winning. Now the same trick is being sold to us again, just with new packaging. The pitch used to be universal basic income. Let the machines make everyone rich. Hand out a check. Problem solved. Funny how quickly that idea got abandoned by the very people who proposed it. Suddenly a monthly check sounds demeaning. People need purpose. They say, what's replaced UBI isn't income, or ownership, or any real power for regular people. It's access. You get given a slice of somebody else's eye to use. Not to own, just to use. And somehow that's supposed to feel like wealth. The man who owns the actual machine gets to decide that not owning anything is fine, as long as you're allowed to log in. Even the people building this future admit where it's heading. One tech CEO described the nightmare scenario himself. A tiny cluster of maybe 10 million people, concentrated mostly in one region, quietly forming its own separate economy, growing 5 times faster than everywhere else, and slowly disconnecting from the rest of humanity entirely. This isn't new. It's just accelerating. For decades, the plan has been to strip away anything collective standing between ordinary people and the market. Unions, safety nets, job security. A person alone and afraid has no leverage, and no leverage is exactly what benefits the people at the top. Every corporate job now runs on individual targets and individual performance reviews, so that instead of workers uniting against decisions made above them, they are fighting each other just to look replaceable. The anger that should point upward gets redirected sideways. And here's the part that should really unsettle you. The same people warn that the moment ordinary people lose economic leverage, democracy itself gets harder to protect from the concentration of power. They say it plainly. And then in the next breath, they tell the worker who never had a say in any of this that the responsibility to adapt is on them. So how did we end up trusting spreadsheets over our own 2 eyes? For most of history, truth came from authority. The church, the king, the philosopher. Then the Enlightenment came along and said measure things instead of just trusting a crown. That idea gave us vaccines and electricity. It also gave us the illusion that anything worth knowing can be reduced to a number. The moment you try to measure a society, someone has to decide what counts and what gets quietly left out. That decision is never neutral. Unemployment only counts people still actively applying for jobs. Give up looking after 100 rejections, and you vanish from the statistic completely, even though you still need income just as badly. Inflation gets calculated using a basket of goods that conveniently smooths over the fact that your weekly groceries cost dramatically more, even while a television gets cheaper. Whichever number makes the story look better gets amplified. Whichever number tells the truth gets buried. This is why the economy can be described as booming while you feel like you're barely staying afloat. It was never really broken. It was built exactly this way, by people with something very specific to protect. And the one thing it was never built to protect is you.